when you have a lots of money and you realize that, okay, the thing which I was chasing now has no meaning to it?
I am honestly telling you, I'm fortunate enough to acquire material things that maybe 99.99% of the world cannot. And that does not give you that lasting happiness.
Do you feel that there's this destiny, there's this karma, which is, guiding your path?
Sri Krishna speaks about this in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3, I think, in the Dhyana chapter. And Krishna says, it's like you acquired that bank balance, right? To put it in perspective, that when you're born, the next birth or the birth after that, those are what you call the yoga prashtas. They start with a certain amount of knowledge that defeats the purpose.
There has to be someone who you should be guided by, a guru. How did you met your guru?
Your guru or your mentor is a result of your search and the intensity of your search. Your Shraddha will get you your mentor.
Welcome everyone to Conversations with Ji. This is the first episode where we have Sathya sir with us, and we'll know that how did he transform into this yoga practitioner and eventually started this academy from a job of a CEO. Welcome sir on the show.
Namaste.
To start off, let people know that who you are. How did you come up to this, and what were you doing previously to this?
So thank you for having me, and it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. This is an interesting journey, and I always say everybody's journey is extremely unique. And I'm basically a accountant by training. I learned accounting in school and in college. And then during that time itself, there was a fair bit of bent towards spirituality because parents were extremely spiritual and they were extremely religious, still are. But I took the standard corporate path, did my bachelor's and then did my master's in the US and then worked there for a while. I was a CFO I returned back to India because I wanted to come back and live in India and work in India. And I returned back about 15 years ago, and I was CFO of multinational companies for a number of years. And then I was fortunate enough to graduate to the CEO role about 6-7 years ago. But what is interesting is, as much as I credit my corporate journey for instilling values of discipline, focus, one-pointedness, and obviously a reasonable amount of success that we all seem to value a lot, there was this little bit of a search that came out, I think, because of the reach to the CEO role. And I say this multiple times, and we spoke about it a few times as well. There is a fair bit of loneliness that comes with being a CEO. And when you are at the top, you are alone. So you have to spend a lot of time with yourself. And you better like yourself, because if that version of you is good, you have an opportunity to grow with it and enjoy it. And if that version is either angry or in a negative emotion, then you have to be able to deal with it and to be able to resolve those things. And I wouldn't say it was all positive. I was very happy to be in the role, but there were also things that I needed to resolve. And I think that's when the search began, or the journey inward began. And thankfully, because there was a bent of spirituality from a very young age, it was easier for me to find the path. Like, I was not lost. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. So it began with a fair bit of yoga and reading and meditation. And I was directed, as they say, when you search for the within, there is usually a path that opens up. And for me, I think yoga was the way that shaped this up. And I studied at the famous Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. I did a program in teacher training. And the CEO then takes over, because when I joined the course, I wanted to be the first in class. I wanted to score the highest of marks. That's how I viewed it. But as you understand the philosophy of Patanjali and the way Sri Krishnamacharya taught his students and the way our teachers taught us, you realize that that's not the goal. The goal is to find the lessons that apply to you and how you can use that for your own growth. And it was very clear that at that point that I wanted to teach. But there was some incredible changes that happened as a result of this journey, and I wanted to share that with everyone. And that's how Ananta was born. Ananta, as you know, means endless. Is another name for Adisesha, the resting place of Mahavishnu. Sage Patanjali is considered an avatar of Adisesha, and that we felt was an appropriate name. It also means endless. So it's now been, I would say, a 4-year journey and a 6-month teaching journey. Probably slightly less than about 4 months in teaching, but it's been a 4-year journey inward. And what I realize is every time I understand a bit more, I realize I know lesser and lesser. So the quantum of what is there to be known is so much. It's scary and exciting at the same time, because you realize how minuscule you are in this cosmic existence, but also that you can make a difference. So that's how it evolved. And, it went from Sathya Kalyana Sundaram, the CEO, to Sathya Ji to G. So that's kind of the name transformation that friends and family and students have done. But it's an incredible journey, and want to be able to share some of the messages with viewers, students, family, friends, and see how this progresses. But it's been wonderful. It's exciting in a way that it's just the beginning. So there's much more opportunity to learn for me, as much as there is to teach and to be able to impart the teachings of what I've learned.
Right. They say that the real wisdom is in knowing that you don't know anything, right? And there's this pattern which I personally observed, that when money starts coming in, you stop caring about money. You realize that there is something more than money, right? Because you have been in the position of a CEO or CFO in MNCs, right? What does actually happen, right? When you have a lots of money and you realize that, okay, the thing which I was chasing now has no meaning to it, and you find that there's something more, right? What is that more which you find out there?
Well, I wouldn't say there's no meaning. I'll correct you, because money does still have a lot of value, and it has a lot of impact in everything that we all do. It's the classic Maslow's hierarchy. When you want to first succeed, your expectations are, I want a job, and then I want to be better at the job, and I want to be the best at this, and I want to grow higher, and I want to buy the first house, I want to buy the first car, I want to start a family, etc. Those are needs that, in my view, should be met and should be met correctly. But what happens is that once your basic needs, as I call it, are met, there are two paths you can take. One is, which most people do, I want the second house, I want the third house, I want the second car, the third car, I want the third X, fourth X. And that you can never win, because what happens is that when I made my first, let's say in the Indian term, 1 crore, God has a very nice way of making you meet the person who has just made 1.1 crore. And when you make 5, you will meet somebody who has made 5.5. So, and you make 100 crores and you will meet somebody who's made 120. So you will never be the top earning person or the maximum number of houses or cars, because God or nature has a way of introducing you at that right moment to somebody who's just made that tinkle above you. So you are always chasing. That a chase will never bring you happiness. The second thing is that I always say that I found greater excitement in the chase than in the achievement. And I realized it 15 years in. So there was a certain kind of vehicle that I wanted to have. And I knew that was something I could buy, but I wanted to buy it under certain conditions that I set for myself. I have to do A, B, C for me to buy it. And when I did it and I bought it, it was a big letdown because that excitement lasted about 2 weeks. I loved that vehicle. I still love it. But the excitement of owning it lasted exactly 2 weeks. And same with a bike. I was always an enthusiastic biker when I was younger. So I wanted to buy a certain bike. And I was so excited to buy it. And that ride lasted about a month. I still ride it. But that josh or that energy of, man, I really actually bought it, lasted a month. So it made me realize that a lot of our cravings are satisfied quickly, and you really don't get lasting happiness from that. At least I have realized that. It may not be the same for others. And that basically brought me to that question, is that what is really making me want to wake up next morning? I've achieved a corporate role that most people will be very happy about. I've achieved a corporate role or a life goal, financial goal, etc. that I'm happy about. But that's not bringing me that happiness beyond a point. And that's when you read. And reading is, in my view, and we've talked about this, a meta skill that can always compound. You realize that what you want to do is actually inherent happiness with who you are as a person. And we'll talk about what life is and all of that. The question that you have to answer is that what does life mean for you? And for me, it means that we are part of a larger existence. We are part of a cycle. And the conversations around life after death and past life and future life, all of those, at least I believe them, they start coming in, and you realize that you are literally in a minuscule bit, and you want to add value, you want to create a lasting impact, you want to make a number of people happy, you want to reduce the number of people who are upset with you or angry with you, and you create a little spark or a minor dent in the existence within that short span of 80, 100 years, which we seem to think will last a lifetime. And that gives you a state of elation that I think can be repeated. And we'll get into this probably a little later. There is this spot called nothingness, which you will achieve over a period of time. And it took me about 3 months of real practice to hit it for about a minute or two. I guess that's what people say. I want to be in this eternal state of nothingness or absolute consciousness, which they call samadhi. But I experienced that once or twice, and there's no way to, and I don't think anything compares to that. What I'm trying to say is, it's not like you want to drop all your responsibilities and start searching for it. But once you feel that you have done reasonable justice to your responsibilities, and we have a responsibility as a son, as a brother, as a friend, as a father, as an employee, you feel that you're doing well, that surge inward is, in my view, important. I wouldn't say it's a must, but it's important because it adds that life to your years, as we call it, or happiness in a way that you cannot explain. And I am honestly telling you, I'm fortunate enough to acquire material things that maybe 99.99% of the world cannot, and that does not give you that lasting happiness. It scared me because that vehicle that I got, that high was 2 weeks, and it was like a 1.5 year work ethic that I had built to achieve it. It lasted 2 weeks and I was just shocked. I enjoy the car, but that high it just came. So this excitement you get to achieve something does not stay long enough. But this one, the search within starts going. When you go inward, you realize one realm opens, you go inward, one more realm opens, and each one is a million times bigger. And then you realize that there's just so much more to life. And to me, I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford the luxury of searching, because many people don't have that. But when you do, I think we owe it to ourselves to be able to go deeper, and if possible, have the ability to change a few people for the better in that road. So I wouldn't say the interest for money goes away, but it's not the driving force anymore. There are other things that happen to you in this path that makes it a lot more fulfilling in many, many ways.
Do you feel that, because you had this transition, right? You also mentioned that 99.9% of people would not have acquired the wealth which you acquired, and you are fortunate for that, right? Also, within those 0.1% of the people who acquired the wealth, there would be only a tiny amount of people who actually made this transition from the chasing materialistic things to going about spiritual, right? Do you feel there is a role of karma that or this was planned, this was a destiny, that you are going to acquire this much wealth, so that you understand that this is not the only driving force in your life? There is something more to achieve. Do you feel that there is this destiny, there's this karma, which is guiding your path right now?
Oh, no question. I'll clarify a couple of points. If you make more than $30,000 or $50,000 a year today, I think you are in the 99 percentile. So that's how little it requires really to be able to do that. So I don't want to come across as this multi-billionaire, but I have worked with and closely worked with at least two billionaires, dollar billionaires. The juice for them is in the work. So they find their calling in the work. They are absolutely not doing it for the money. These are not people who buy houses that they cannot even visit half the rooms. They're very frugal with how they spend. They live a luxurious life, but they're not buying a jet that they use twice a year. They're not buying palaces because they want to tell people that they bought palaces, etc. These are people who find the juice in the work, who find that excitement, who still wake up in the morning and want to run the businesses, grow that, and they do a lot of charitable work because they find their calling there. The spiritual, this thing is interesting. You brought the point of karma. It has to do, in my view, based on your past lives. Sri Krishna speaks about this in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3, I think, in the Dhyana chapter, where Arjuna says to him, there are people who pray all their lives, who live a very stoic life, who are very truthful, who don't do anything wrong, they adhere to the path of Dharma, and they don't enjoy anything, and they still pass away as a normal person. What's the point of doing that? Which is, there are thousands of people around us who do that. And Krishna says, it's like you've acquired that bank balance, right? To put it in perspective, that when you're born, the next birth or the birth after that, those are what you call the yoga prashtas. They start with a certain amount of knowledge that defeats the purpose. So when a Ramana Maharishi finds out at 13, he finds enlightenment. That would take others hundreds of years to do it. There's a certain amount of back work that has been done. So Krishna actually says, nothing goes to waste. You're good, you're bad. Trust me, it all plays out. So there are people who say, why am I suffering? Why is this one child suffering of mine? Why is all my friends are doing well, why am I not getting that promotion? Or everything has a back channel, everything has a purpose. So you have to believe that concept first. And then what it does is it allows you to enjoy the good, but it allows you also to build the strength to handle the not so good. So you realize that there's something at play which is bigger than you. Try your best. You do incredible thing. Everybody works hard. Everybody is honest, or most people are honest. Most people want to do the right thing. Why are only a few people succeeding? You have to have the grace of, and your karma does play out. So the path you take has to do with some things that have happened in your prior life. And I firmly believe there's some spiritual bent or some yogic bent that has happened. Because if someone had come to me when I was running this multinational corporation just 4 years ago and said, in 3 years you would grow a beard till your chest and be teaching yoga and talking about karma and vasana and samskara and all of that, I would have not laughed at them, but I would have said, interesting, I don't see myself doing that. And you cannot believe that the same mind that was talking P&L, balance sheet, sales targets, employee attrition, acquisition, is now talking dhyana and, shraddha, vairagya and all of those things. It cannot happen without your past. And whether it is your prarabdha, sanchita karma, sanchima karma, the different karmas, it has a play. So we actually control a lot less than we actually think we do. We can't even control our own sneeze, right? So it's very interesting that you asked that question, because I firmly believe destiny has a play. 2 days ago, a friend of mine had seen one of the top astrologer, and he said, I had met this person, he had given so many accurate predictions, but whatever he said for me was incorrect. And there is this saying that even the astrologer has a good time and a bad time, where when he predicts or she predicts, everything comes true. And even they have those troughs, right, that you miss out. So the time is what determines who you are and what you are. So we control very little. So I feel that I'm guided by this little bit of a direction. But you obviously put in the work, you see if this is the direction. So I'm a firm believer in destiny. I'm a firm believer in whatever you want to call it, nature, destiny, karma. And I believe that that's brought me to where I am today. And for us even to have this conversation, it has to work today, the time has to work. We have to speak about spirituality. We have to speak about yoga, etc. Everything is, to a point, absolutely predetermined, in my view.
All right. It was interesting that I heard somewhere in, I don't remember where, but I heard this that जब आपका बुरा वक्त चल रहा होता है, right? That time you quote God that, why he is giving so much pain. But जब अच्छा वक्त चल रहा होता है, then you don't tell that, why me? Why are you giving me so much happiness? That time you would say, thank you. Thank you, God, for this happiness. For the bad time, you ask him why. But it's a balance of both. The life goes through the bad time and the good time. And now, moving towards the paths of exploring. In Bhagavad Gita, there are many paths which are given, right? There is Karma Yoga, then there is Brahmacharya. So I would like you to, put some light on that, okay? Because also in Hinduism, there are multiple paths. Like the Shiva path goes around, silent meditation. The Krishna path goes around bhajan, kirtan, right? So, please put some light on it. What are these different paths? And, where do you lie in between those?
Oh, it's a maze that, I will obviously not do full justice. But Lord Krishna makes it simplest of all. And he actually says the highest form of yoga is bhakti. So he says, the one that I love the most is the one who utters my name all the time. And you know the story about Narada going to him and saying, I am your greatest devotee. I say Narayana all the time. And he says, there's this farmer who utters my name twice. When he starts the day, during the day, when he wraps up for lunch, he says my name. And then when he starts in the afternoon and evening, he says, so he says it, start, end. He's my favorite. And so Narada gets upset. He says, I chant your name throughout. How can he be? He says, okay, I'll give you a small experiment. He gives him a small bowl of oil. He says, God, there is a view that asks him to go around the world. But just assume that just go around in a circle that I draw for you and come back. And it's a very interestingly placed vessel that he keeps it on his head or in his hand. He says, come back. And he says, I have come back, not even a drop is spilled. So he says, how many times did you say my name? He said, what do you mean say your name? I was focusing on the oil, not spilling. He says, this person is a regular farmer with very little. Even during that, he says my name. So he is my favorite. So Bhakti Yoga, according to Krishna, is the highest. The reason he says that is, if you drop everything and you are just chanting Kirtan, singing, and you're doing Bhakti, you are also not doing your responsibilities. You have been placed on this earth as a son, a father, a brother, a husband, all of those. So fulfill them. Just having the Bhakti is enough. If you have the ability, go into dhyana. If you have the ability, go into deeper and deeper. But Bhakti is sufficient. And if you are doing a job, do it to the best of your capability. You are the best ever IAS officer. You are the best ever software engineer. You are the best ever CFO. Duty towards work, but your duty towards your parents, duty towards your spouse, duty towards your children, duty towards your siblings. Can everyone say, cross their heart and say, everything I have done perfectly? That is a karma yogi, right? So you want to take the view, they get deeper and deeper. What we take is that high level view and say, this is easy. None of what Krishna has said is easy. But he's saying, if you cannot do any of it, be bhakti, highest level of bhakti. And I think in one of the chapters, he highlights the qualities of a good devotee. My own guru was just telling me this. He highlights 35 qualities. I don't think anybody will pass the first one. He says, love everyone, hate no one. Impossible. Everybody's failed already. Right? So, because I was making a statement saying, this person seems to have a lot of devotion. He said, stop. Does he meet even X number of qualities? No. So what happens is that we can choose the path that is right for us. I believe that I have the ability and the time to make for a certain amount of practice, including meditation, including prayer. I believe in God, so I pray. I believe in a certain number of practices that I do, and I do all of them. But I have really had to earmark time to the point where now my day will complete without other things, but they will not complete without these things. My meditation is set, my prayer is set, and I believe that structure gives me more than anything. I don't want to speak for others, but it gives me more than anything happiness and a certain amount of contentment, which I don't find completely in others. I spend time with family, I work, I go out, I do all of those other things. But the day for me will not start or end without these aspects. So if you have the ability to pull that off, you should. And I would strongly suggest, Krishnamacharya said this beautifully. If you can do 1 hour of asana, do it. If you can do 45 minutes, do it. You can do 30 minutes, do it. You can do 10 minutes, do it. But do not stop. Do your practice. The Shraddha, or what we call the unshakable faith, will take you stronger and stronger and stronger. This is now in every single podcast around the world. Number of days of ordinariness leads to years of greatness, 10,000 hours. You can accumulate it at 10 minutes a time, an hour at a time, whatever you want. But you don't stop. You progress. Every day you do that. And you will be shocked by the incremental compounding that happens. What you thought was impossible happens in months, in weeks. And it starts compounding more and more. The eighth wonder of the world. So I believe that I have done a bit to structure that. But I would say, depending on what stage of life one is, whether you want to start with just kirtan, just say a bhajan, just say a prayer, and go inward or go deeper, is up to you. But do not stop once you start. That journey, once you've taken the first step, the second, third steps are difficult, but continue that. And it will be one that you will enjoy for the rest of your life.
Well, the other day I was just reading this article and watching videos that in our Hindu culture, everything is signified, but everything has a depth to it, right? Being a Gujarati, we have Garba. We play Garba during Navratri, right? Now the science behind that is that during the Navratri, the seasonal changes are occurring. So your immunity is pretty much low biologically. So during the 9 days, we take a fast. We do fast. We don't eat much, which is scientifically good for your immunity. Also, we play Garba. Now the beats of the dhol are set in such a way that they are increasing in tempo. So once you start playing it, you achieve a trance because you are playing the same step in a flow on the same beat. So it's like you are achieving a trance, and it's really good for your mental health. When you feel the trance, you feel the energy within you, the Mata energy there, sir, right? Same way, it is also mentioned in some text that in the Shiva temples we have Nandi, right? So they tell that if you see Shivling through the both horns of Nandi, it would seem very much wonderful. Now the science behind it is that you consider Nandi's horns as your eyes, right? And once you focus in between, you see the Shiva. So I think that everything has a depth to it, as you said, right? And when there are multiple ways to it, right? Krishna Bhakti or Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. How do you figure out that where do I like? Because, okay, let's start. I am someone who is new to this. I want to start Bhakti. But how do I figure out that, what is meant for me? And also, follow up to that, if I start one type of practice, does it mean that I can't start another type of practice, or I should not jump in between? What is the method of it?
Oh, it's a very common question that people ask. For me, the way I look at it is that the fact that somebody has asked the question, the door has opened. So that's how I started. What should I do? And I said, I want to meditate 2 hours a day and I'm going to achieve this state. And the person I spoke to, he said, how long do you believe in prayer? And I said, yes, of course. How long do you pray? He said, I pray about 10 minutes. He said, are you that busy that you have only 10 minutes for prayer? That's all he said. He never said pray 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So he said, think about it. So I said, well, I have a 14-hour work day, blah, blah, blah. Let me do 20 minutes. We double it. Today, my prayer lasts an hour and 20 minutes. Nobody told me to bring it to this stage. Once you're on the path, it takes that step forward. The key is what you call, and I repeat the word Shraddha, the faith that you are on the path, right? And I'll speak about multiple paths. For someone who is starting, who does not know what to do, usually the starting point is, what is it that you're looking for? Many people would say, what am I looking for today? A young person will say, I want a job, I want a car, I want to get married, etc., etc. The question is deeper. What is it that you want, that you look for? And it's okay if the answer is, I do not know, which is, in my view, probably close to 100%. What is it that you like to do is the question. Do you feel like you can spend 10 minutes in a temple? Do you feel that you can go to a Shiva temple? You feel that you can go see Lord Krishna or anything? Do you feel that you want to sit for 10 minutes and meditate? Do you feel that you want to be active? Most people say, my gym is my zone. Or people say, I want to run and I feel that. Others say, I want to do yoga and I feel that. Pick your passion. Pick yours. It does not have to be a spiritual one. But the answer will come to you only from a spiritual bent. You will find the zone, but you will not find the answer. So what then it does is, who do I like listening to? Who do I like? There's so much of information available. That's how I did it. I didn't naturally gravitate toward X or Y. I was a big fan of, I am still a big fan of Swami Vivekananda. It's inspiring how words he has written can lift the hair on your this thing, right? So what did he do? Why did he feel that this uprising internally was possible? And when you read, and he says, action cures fear. Action always cures fear, right? And I said, I'm fearful or I'm angry about something or I'm upset. Action cures it. So you then find out what is the action required. That started for me. And then his own journey about how he went from an absolute non-believer into doing the level of meditation that he did. So my path was started by his readings or his teachings. But it gravitated me towards Patanjali and Sri Krishnamacharya and yoga, etc. The key is to keep that search. Find your little bit of excitement. And if you claim that I find excitement in eating, for example, then it's a little difficult. It has to be something that is of a nature of, stoicism in a sense. But it will take your path. I would say, if somebody believes in God, prayer, a 10-minute prayer routine to start off, and stick to that routine. If it's 9 a.m., 9 a.m., if it's 8 a.m., 8 a.m., give that view that let me do this prayer and pray to whoever, Krishna, Rama, whoever. Pray to the sun, pray to a mountain, pray to the ocean. I want to be as calm as the ocean. I want to be as strong as the mountain. I want to be as powerful as Shiva. I want to be as smiling as Krishna. I want to be benevolent as Rama. Whoever you want, or Devi. I want to be able to develop the strength. So many people who believe in Vaishnava Devi. So many aspects of it. But choose your, what I call Ishta Devata. Do a 10-minute prayer. Trust me, in a month, you will have gone further in the path than you have. Then comes the next set. What can I do to expand? The mind is always wired in a way that it will keep pushing you in the direction that you've chosen. Keep going, keep going. So the search and the inquiry will go deeper and deeper at that point. So to me, that is the way I started. And it took me further enough. The second aspect is, I think you had asked about how can I choose, which path can I choose? The path or the fork in the road will come to people when they reach a certain stage. So today, a standard question I get from people is, oh, you have your own yoga academy. That's wonderful. You teach Ashtanga, Vinyasa, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga. And all of those are valid questions. You can, and we actually teach a couple of forms of yoga. But first is you're on the path of yoga. Then you find out which one appeals to you the most. Which one is the one that you like the most. Then you go deeper and deeper into that. You can teach Vinaya Yoga, you can teach Hatha Yoga, etc. But the fact that you are at the fork, you've come further ahead. At that point, I would recommend find a teacher or a mentor that you like or respect. And I've got people now who said, I've been practicing pranayama by this teacher. Can I come and learn dhyana with you? The great thing is that none of these are invasive. You can do pranayama one way. You can do, if you go to the Shivananda school, it's very, very difficult but extremely powerful. So if you learn one way, can you not learn the other way? No. Most yoga teachers, if you see, have learned multiple ways or multiple aspects. Then they have formed their own aspect on their way of their path of teaching. So I would actually encourage people to, I wouldn't say experiment, but learn multiple things so that you understand which one appeals to you the most. Yeah, I would actually encourage people to do that. So there is no invasive aspect at all. And when you go into the yoga aspect, eventually you will be directed towards Ayurveda. So people say, I'm doing homeopathy, can I do Ayurveda, can I do this? Find out if it's invasive. And the great thing about Ayurveda, again, if it's not invasive. So there are students of ours who take blood pressure medication, who after doing practices with us have stopped taking blood pressure medication because the pressure has come down. Whether it is because of the medication or whether it's because of the practice. Some say it's because of our practice. Some say they are calmer, so they've stopped. But we always say, do not stop anything. If you have medication, please continue taking it. Please consult your physician before starting or stopping anything. Our practices are non-invasive. So I would actually encourage people to experiment in that sense in terms of what practices they want to follow. They don't have to do one form of yoga and not another one. And, I can ask you, I know you are a Krishna Bhakt. Would you not go to a Ram temple, for example? Or would you? So it's not like those are out of bounds. Everything is okay. Everything is fine. But in that, you will find your path, your true path. The search has begun. Don't stop the search, is the way I would say.
All right. Always people who start this journey of exploration, they say that the guiding force, there has to be someone who you should be guided by, a guru. Right? A guru is different from a teacher. Right? I would like you to highlight that, okay, what is a guru? And, also highlight that, how did you met your guru, Krishnamacharya?
There are actually about 6 or 7 definitions. There's an acharya, there's a guru, all of those. There is actually a lineage. For me, I was drawn to the mandiram, the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, because of certain aspects of how they taught. So I was clear that I wanted to learn yoga. And I had done enough reading that I understood the Ashtanga, the eightfold path, which is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Samadhi is the highest state. So I was very keen to do Dhyana, which was meditation. And then when you look at the teachings of Patanjali, who highlights the Ashtanga, the manner in which Sri Krishnamacharya went about it, a life of purpose, person who transformed and healed thousands, if not more, just by the power of his practice. How he went through that. He had 6 children, lived in a house, and it would qualify as a room today. The house was as big as a room. But the faith, the devotion to his practice, to his Shraddha, the fact that he taught almost, I would say, I don't think he taught anyone not for free. It had to be free. It was one-on-one. That personalized aspect. That's why he's called an acharya. So you embody that in the highest form possible in any way. So for me, that level of teaching, I was inspired by that. And the teachers themselves embody that at the mandiram. So I'm inspired by my teachers. And, if I can even be a fraction of the learning that they have imparted me, that is incredible. And in the mandiram, they appoint what's called a mentor to each student. Many mentors and students form a real beautiful bond. Some are purely, sir or ma'am, teach me this, I know this. So it's that relationship. And I've been fortunate, I would say again, it has to do with karma, to have my mentor, Mr. Srinivasan, V. Srinivasan, who has, that spark is always, they light the match just before you leave. So I was chanting the Gayatri mantra. I was telling him very proudly, sir, I'm chanting Gayatri. So every mentor session. And he'd say, how many times are you chanting? 10 times. Wonderful. Great. You think 108 is out of your reach. That's all. That's the end of that mentor session. So it's playing in the background. So 10 I can do is 3 minutes. 108 is 15 minutes can I do. I'm doing 108, sir. So I started doing 108. So I'm doing 108. I'm doing. So you're doing how many times a day? So that means, so it is never, nothing is ever said, do this, don't do this. How many times do you do in a day? So that leaves that search. So then I'm doing and say, I do. In my view, he will quote a verse of the Bhagavad Gita and leave you wanting. So the natural instinct for somebody who is a certain form of driven is that you will go Google it. You will go find out what it is. And trust me, you will come with 30 questions. At least I did. Those 30 questions have resulted in another 300 pages of reading. But he is left with that. So there is this reference for a chariot and a charioteer in this Upanishad called Kathopanishad. The mind and the horses. In Kathopanishad, there is this chariot reference. We'll talk about it at some point. So then you're like, what is this mind chariot? You're going back and forth. So I've been fortunate enough that every step of my learning was this small door that was opened. And it has got to the point where he will say enough questions for the day. Because I'm there with my laptop. So it's just taking questions, reading it, asking, understanding it. So the next session is that more. So your guru or your mentor is a result of your search and the intensity of your search. Your Shraddha will get you your mentor. As they say, when the student is ready, the master appears, the teacher appears. And for me, it's levels of gratitude which I cannot explain in words. The amount of learning that I've picked up every year, every day that I interact with my mentor is immense. And I actually have at least 2 more mentors. One, Mr. Sridharan, who is a very senior person in the Mandiram. He's actually part of the yoga council at the national level. Again, they will only leave you with bits of wisdom. So the search is ours. The direction is there. And they will know if you are interested or sincere enough by how much you prepared. Because not a single mentor session or not a single conversation has been initiated by them. Not because they don't want to. But your curiosity will initiate. I read this, I found this, I'm doing this, I find this. And you get these bits of, I would call them a dopamine biscuit. So you get the dopamine. So you're on a real high when you find out. But you realize that that high is only one step. And then there is one small biscuit that's given there, that going. And it's incredible. So don't worry about finding your teacher. Find your direction. For me, when I listened to Vivekananda or I read, there were certain things that inspired me. But I never knew that there was one Mr. Srinivas V. Srinivasan at KYM. I never knew the extent of his knowledge. I'm still finding out the extent of his knowledge. But guess what? I'm in a spot where I know firmly who I will call. I know firmly my guiding lights. And both Mr. Srinivasan and Mr. Sridharan are mentors of Ananta. They've agreed and mentor us on our programs and all of that. So don't worry about that particular teacher or something. They will appear in front of you at the right time. Always. Always. The search is the important one. When you go on that path, when you're learning on it, you will say at a point where I don't know who I can call to answer this. Trust me, it will come. And I always say this, I believe this quote, and I'm trying to figure out who said it. The universe is conspired in a way, and you can call it universe, nature, life, that if you really want something and you're doing what you can within your means, without, any harmful activity, but your mind is only on that, it conspires for it to happen. And when I heard it, being me, I tested it. I wanted a role, and it was absolutely out of reach. I was a CEO, and I was applying for a CEO role. It was out of reach. I said, let me try this concept. I'm going to think about this for the next 90 days. Go to do what's required, skill set. I believe I have the skill sets. I believe I have the capabilities. I was picked of one among 17,000 people. Out of reach, the person who was final two, I was running a $20 million company and he was running a $800 million company. So he had the scale, capability, and I was running a $20 million company and I was chosen to run. The universe actually will conspire. It depends on your level of intensity. So I now have this view, even in practice, even if I do for 10 minutes, it's intense practice. You're not thinking about as much as possible because that intensity goes further than the length. So it's not how hard you work, but how focused you are. So to me, the intensity of the search will bring you the teacher, and do not worry about the teacher. You will land the teacher, or the teacher will appear in front of you when you exactly need one. When Krishna offered his army and himself to both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. He said, it's me or my army. Power-wise, who is most powerful? The Yadava army. But what did Yudhishthira and the Pandavas say? You are enough. And the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna only complaining, right? I can't lift my bow, I'm sweating, I'm upset, etc. At that point, Krishna still does not say, here's what to do. Till Arjuna says, can you please tell me what to do? So that's why I'm saying your search has to land at that point. Can somebody help me beyond this point? And guess what? Thou shalt appear. They will appear. It has happened to me. It has happened to so many people. So do not worry about the teacher. You will get the best ever according to you, because I have. And I enjoy their every minute with me, the amount of quantum of learning, not the number of books. The quantum of learning is just mind-boggling.
Can't deny the fact that our Guru would appear itself, because the conversation which we had on the call, right? That question I had in my mind since months or years, I don't remember, but it was triggering that, okay, why? Then I actually found out, okay, maybe you were the person who was supposed to guide me through that. It was
never know. It's A lot of people call it providence, but that cycle of time and that cycle of karma as a pre-planned point at 27th January, so and so is when that spark lights in my head to go do this, and because of that, this happens. So I'm a big, huge believer. And when things don't appear in front of me, because we are used to this era of instant gratification, right? I want to do this, my guru needs to appear tomorrow morning or in the next 10 minutes. Now I've got to a point, I wouldn't say I'm as good as I'd like to be. I've got to the point where if it is taking longer than what my mind thinks it should be, I've got to the point where at least I'll refer to that little bit of database of information and say, maybe the time is not there yet. It doesn't happen all the time. But when that insight comes to me, then I'm a lot calmer. Because otherwise you're like, ye nahi ho raha hai, or why is it not happening? Why is it taking time? Once in a while I get that little bit of wisdom, vivekam as they call it. And they say, well, it's not time yet. And it's right, it's not time yet.
You know, when you are young, you have nothing to lose. Yet we fear to change, right? People say that change is the only constant, but as human psychology is that we don't tend to change. We like to stay in the position where we are. What is Ananta and why did you start it, right? Someone who is a practitioner of yoga, we all understood that, okay, you are naturally attracted towards the Krishnamacharya's learnings and you enter. But why did this thought come up that, okay, I should propagate this further. I should start something which could benefit students, which could benefit people who are in the materialistic world and, trying to figure out like you were trying to figure out. What was that one thought which, motivated you to do this?
Well, it's a good question, and I think I've had to justify this to myself more times than to most other people. Why do I want to teach? Why do I want to teach? Ananta was formed, I would say, in my second semester. So we had 3 semesters. First semester, I approached it as a exam. I want to top it. I want to have the highest marks. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that I know and I can do well and all that. Obviously, I passed. I don't know if I was topper or not. I realized that it obviously didn't matter. In the second semester, in the yoga philosophy section, we get a little deeper into what is the purpose of existence in a way. At least that's how I understood it. The concept of salvation, concept of self-realization. Again, they are all given as dopamine biscuits to you. They are not talked about at great length. But then what I realize is that there is this coloring in front of us, which we call avidya, which is the base for everything else for us to come up. Fear, love, hate, all of those come from this avidya, which is opposite of vidya. Right? You don't know, or you know differently, or you know incorrectly, however you want to call it. Then you realize that there is so much depth into that. And I realize whatever I know has been patternized because of my learning, my experiences. But am I experiencing them and feeling that level of taking it inward, or are there experiences that I have to learn from? So the classic example we give is when we watch a movie and you're so into the movie and the character in the movie is suffering or undergoing a painful incident, how many people actually cry? How many people are moved to tears? Or how many people are elated when something great happens? The question is any of that happening to you? No. Why are we so identifying with something that is external and internalizing it and going through that entire scale of emotions? So what then happens is that was the opening point. So I said, how much of it am I reacting versus learning versus, and obviously it's an answer I still haven't found. But the fact that there is a bit that is external, the chitta, how much of that is experienced versus how much of that is actually used for transformation. That was to put it in modern lingo, it was a kind of a spiritual psychedelic experience that messed me up a bit. So then I said, I'm not here to pass the exam. I'm not here to be the best asana person or meditate the longest. I'm here to figure out answers of my own. If I end up getting this teacher training certification, great. But if not, I'm happy for the learning. So it went from, I have to get this certification, I have to put this on a wall, I have to frame it, to what am I learning? That was a shift, and it was not a conscious shift. It was a subconscious shift, which I would say was also prodded a little bit by my mentor. And I'll give you an example for those of you who feel that my journey was a higher calling of sorts. All I was asking my mentor was how to pass the exam. How do I pass the exam? How do I do this? He said, why don't you try and understand some of this that's going on? And I actually took his words seriously, which I always do. This transformation happened. By the end of the second semester, I was clear that I wanted to teach in some capacity. Meaning, let me teach people I know who are experiencing these symptoms of sadness or disappointment or depression, friends, family, in a way that I can help some people. In the third semester is when I started, or we all started our meditation practice in depth. And true to my nature, when we were told this guided meditation practice, I said, they said you have to do ideally twice a day, but at a minimum once a day. It's 35 to 40 minutes. Follow the instructions and do it at the same time. I was ritualistic in that. 6:30 p.m. every day, 7 days a week, 90 days. I didn't skip a single day. By the 30th day or something is when I think I told you earlier, I had that a minute of nothingness. And I was actually shocked because you are in a daze for the next couple of hours because you hit that spot and you come back. Whether nobody knows whether they are there for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, but I hit that spot. And when I told my mentor, he said, you have actually reached that point of nothingness. So it's a draw for most people that they don't want to come back. That's why they say some yogis are in samadhi for years and years, etc. Then I realized that this is what I want to do. I want to teach people because I am in a spiritual, yogic, religious sense, the most ordinary of people. There was no calling prior. There was no astrologer telling this person is going. This is purely by self-realization. Search to next step, to next step. And I have actually hit that point. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I was an average student. I was a reasonably average employee, worked hard to get to where I was, and did something completely right field from corporate life to this. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Anyone can achieve that level of delight or, that state of nothingness, absolute. You cannot, words in any dictionary cannot explain it. But I've experienced this multiple times. And true to my nature and all our nature, the goal is to achieve it the next day, which never happens. So my mentor, Mr. Sridharan, was clear, said, don't expect it to happen tomorrow. It will happen when you hit that spot again. So it will happen if you continue. So that's when I said I want to teach, and I want to teach the fundamental concept that you can achieve Sukham. Sukham is a word that is equated with happiness. It's beyond happiness. It is actually delight. It is a point where you are, I would say the closest word is bliss. You're at a point of bliss, where you mentioned earlier, when they are in a bhajan state, they have, that level of ananda is so high that nothing compares to that. You can achieve it. It is actually possible for everyone to achieve it. And I feel very strongly that I'm able to teach it. That energy that came in was what drove me to start Ananta. And I went and told my mentors I want to start. And shockingly, the response that I got was, we always knew you would do this. They never said, don't drop your CEO role and don't drop all that money. And first thing, and I actually have a little bit of fever, they actually said, we always knew you will do this. So they knew long before I knew. That's the power of the Guru. They know. But you have to become who you are. So, and they said, we always knew you would do this. I was like, why didn't you tell me earlier, right? So, no, but you won't understand. I would not have understood. But today you get to that point. So it is very, very clear to me that this is what I want to teach. And we have students who do this dhyana practice. One has had, in the medical sense as they call it, a breakthrough. One has had what you call, one has hit that point of nothingness in about 40 days. They are happier, healthier, they sleep better, their relationships are better, they're more peaceful, they're content with where they are. All of those aspects, and none of these words are being used by me. It all came from them. We actually take testimonials. So when I know that through this practice, I'm obviously the tool. The practice was developed eons ago. That we're able to change lives. It's the most unbelievable feeling. And when I was told, yes, we knew you would always do this, then I said, okay, thankfully it is my calling and this is what I want to do. The one thing that I will highlight is that you do not have to achieve Sukham. You do not have to achieve bliss. If you do the opposite of that, or a part of that, which is the first step, which we call Dukkha Nivaranam. You don't have to be happy, but if you reduce or eliminate sadness, you're good. Most people are looking for that only. They are unhappy, depressed because of a lost job, lost relationship, less money, health, etc. Everything can be resolved. You can resolve the past, but you have to make the effort. And when you do that, it will bring you to a point of contentment. So in the Dashavataram, when the churning happens of the mountain, what comes first? Poison, which Lord Shiva has. All the poison will come out first. So please don't be discouraged when you do the practice that you're going lower than you were. The poison comes out. And then when it leaves the system, you are at a point where whether you achieve bliss, you will not be unhappy. Curing unhappiness, dukkha nivaranam itself is sufficient for most people. So, I've had to resolve things in my past. And when you do it, you are generally at peace. Doesn't mean that I never get angry or I don't get upset. I am not bothered by what has happened anymore because you have resolved it. And the practice does that to you. And when I realized that it resolved it for me, I realized that there are thousands who can benefit from it. We have students who come and tell us, I have no money. One student actually sent me a screenshot of her bank account saying, I have no money for your course. So it is not whether you have the money, it is whether you have the intensity. And that student has brought 7 other students. So it all comes back in what I was saying. So the intensity or the shraddha, that unshakable faith, will get you to that point. You can make peace. You can be happy. You have to make the effort because you've done all this effort to get to the point of unhappiness. Whether it is yours or somebody else, you can come out of it. And you will come out of it. So just look at us as, I would say, look at us as a place where you can be at peace with yourself. You are unique. You have skills, you have talents, you have aspects which nobody else in the world does. Please recognize that and we will help you get to that point.
It was great. I feel that through this medium of, podcast, many people would now hear this and, actually start their journey of exploring, which in itself is a great service, I feel. Any ending notes which you would like to give to the people? Any quote which, you would like to give to the people which would help them or motivate them to start their journey of exploring at the first place?
Well, I think there are some things that drive me, and I can say those, and those necessarily don't have to be quotes, but things that others have said and others I've learned from others. Whatever you want to achieve, if you think you can do it, and if you think you cannot do it, you are right. I think Henry Ford said this. If you think you can do something, and if you think you can't do something, you are right. So whatever you put your mind to, it is actually possible. It has happened to me. And it continues to happen to people around me, and we read wonderful stories around the world across realms. So please believe, most importantly, in yourself. Do not put yourself down. You are your best and closest companion. Do not ever put yourself down. Be clear on that. Second, everyone who has succeeded, peace, work, relationships, money, has never done it alone. You always have the help of someone. Parents, friends, boss, coach, teacher, guru, mentor. Nothing is possible without divine intervention. Nothing great is ever possible without divine intervention. The easiest person to fool on the planet is yourself. Richard Feynman said that. So please be truthful to yourself. It has taken me a long time to do that. But I am truthful for the most part. Right? And for me, I think the fundamental thing that continues to drive me is how much is your shraddha? So I always ask myself, the shraddha, how high is it? How deep is it? The shraddha drives everything. Your intensity will drive everything. There are 7 other things that I may want to do. I actually do not do them because I don't believe that I can give that level of intensity to that. Because when I do something, I would like to do it with that level of intensity. And it's not like you have to do only that. Like when I say prayer, If you're doing 10 minutes of prayer, 10 minutes of uninterrupted devotion will take you miles. Sri Krishnamacharya his daily prayer was 3.5 hours. And he is actually known to have made the statement, if I can fixate on Narayana for 5 minutes, I'm happy. I'm talking about a 3.5 hour prayer by Krishnamacharya. That level of focus, he's saying 5 minutes. So if you can do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so the power of focus, your Shraddha will take you places. And whatever you believe you have undergone, which is negative, every single thing can be resolved. Every single thing can be resolved because it is, whether you want to call it here or here, it is within you. You can make peace with it and you can move forward. So do not ever be discouraged. Every time I feel a sense of, oh, it didn't go well, and trust me, it happens to the best or even to the great masters. What they have to rely on is that accumulation of stored capacity which helps you get over that. That is what your Shraddha is building. It's building that reservoir. Don't worry, you have crossed bigger hurdles. Don't worry, this is a minor aspect. Don't worry, even if it is major, you have the strength to get through it. One of these three will always be there. So do not ever feel discouraged. Every single thing that you believe you can accomplish can be done. And the path is there. The path that we offer obviously is Ashtanga. It is incredible. It is the most beneficial in a truest sense. But like you said, there are so many other paths. There's Bhakti, there's Karma Yoga. Choose the path and you will get to where you want to go. You will always fulfill your destiny. But find it and go after it with unwavering conviction. And it will happen.
My father always says that, God doesn't speak. He only speaks one word, that is Tathastu.
Tathastu.
Tell that, you are doing bad to me. Tathastu. You tell him, I want this. Tathastu. Whatever you speak, it will happen. So speak good. On that note, we'll end this first episode of Conversations with Ji. Thank you for doing this. And now, what do you say in the end?
No, these are conversations that personally are enjoyable because I've always wanted to, in some form, be able to be that, as they call it, that connecting dot where the messages are going to people. And so I'm very happy that we've been able to do this conversation. And looking forward to second, third, and many more of these. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.